And it's an avenue that we haven't really explored yet on the series. The kinds of performances that he pulls out of actors, they have a very distinctive quality to them, and you classify them as Brechtian.
Yes, and actually, I got the idea years ago when I was really a young film person in master's school. Do you know the article in Sight and Sound in 1981 by some person, it's got to be a pseudonym, named P.T. Twickerington, about The Shining? And whoever this was writing under a pseudonym, sometimes I've even thought maybe it was Kubrick himself, said that he was talking about why The Shining, like most of Kubrick's films when they came out, got such poor reviews, and why his films are so baffling to people on first viewing, or a lot of people, unless you've gotten on Kubrick's wavelength, then obviously in all of the intervening years, and especially since his death, many people have gotten on his wavelength. But this author made the point that Kubrick's style is a combination of Brecht, who wants to distance you from the form, wants the performances to be bigger, and in fact, Jack Nicholson on the set kept asking Kubrick, "Aren't I being too big?" And Kubrick assured him, "No, Jack, you're not." He wants that larger than life, but also larger than the character, so that you become not that particular individualized character, but all characters like that. And so Bill Harford in Eyes Wide Shut becomes all yuppies. Jack Torrance in The Shining becomes all frustrated husbands and fathers and guys who feel that they've lost their manhood some way or other, and they want to get it back. Twickerington said that Kubrick is a combination of Brecht and the distanciation and the epic acting and so on, with Antonin Artaud and the theater of cruelty and the idea of theater and by extension film, as a totalizing experience, as something that just engulfs you in the form. And as I learned more and as I studied Brecht, that idea of Kubrick not making Brechtian films, it would be wrong to say he does that. Jean-Luc Godard is probably the best example of a truly Brechtian filmmaker, and they're both Marxists and they're both very political artists, and Godard basically set out to do in films what Brecht had done in theater. It would be wrong to say that Kubrick, who in one sense, of course, is a commercial filmmaker making big budget movies for the last 40 years of his life for one particular major studio, be wrong to say that he's anti-capitalism, but he's certainly critical of capitalism, and he's certainly critical of a lot of the ideologies, particularly masculinity and power in it. So, but the acting is an element in particular that Kubrick retained of Brecht. And a point that I always make is that if you look at the film AI, the Kubrick, of course, the Kubrick project that Spielberg picked up and made, Spielberg tried to do it as Kubrick would have in so many respects, but he did not attempt the acting. So he didn't have actors do 100 takes until all the spontaneity went out of their performance. And, you look at that film, the first big difference between Kubrick and Spielberg right away, between the obvious ones, like, of course, Spielberg is going to have some sentimentality that creeps in. But beyond that, the first big difference is the acting. He just didn't go for Kubrick's style of acting at all.